Okay, so let's start today's session. So in today's session, we are going to discuss about Pandas library. So in the previous session, we have discussed about NumPy library. So where it is what the important library, so which we are going to use to work with the numbers, right? So either in zero dimension, one dimension, two dimension, three dimension, or any n dimension arrays can be processed, can be used, and we can perform any operation on these n dimension arrays using NumPy library. Okay, so in today's session we are going to discuss about another special library and the basic library, so that is called as Pandas. Okay, so and which is a main important library which is specifically used to work with the labeled data or the relational data. That means relational or the labeled data will be in the form of generally data sets. Okay, so data sets is nothing but the data which is arranged in the form of rows and columns. Okay, so the Excel sheets, whatever you are going to see, right? The data of such kind will be referred as a relational data or the label data, which will be used to have the analysis on the data set. Okay, so to work on the such kind of data, so we are going to use Pandas library. Okay, so just a sec. Fine. So to work with such kind of data sets, we are going to use the Pandas library. Okay, so what is Pandas actually, and what are the different types of data structures we generally use in Pandas, and what are the different functions, and as like similar to the NumPy, we are going to have the set of attributes, set of functions will be defined inside the function, which we are going to use to work with the data sets. As like NumPy, we are going to use the attributes and the functions which are to work with the numbers or the arrays. Here we are going to use those attributes or the functions to work with the data sets, right? So let us see one by one each of them. Okay, so what is Pandas actually? So Pandas is a library, Python library, open source Python library, which is created, which is made mainly to work with the structured or the relational or the labeled data. Okay, so and it provides the various data structures and operations for manipulating these data set. Okay, so we can have the as many functions as we have, and we can have different attributes. Okay, so we can use them to work with these data, to modify the data set, to analyze the data set, to get the information about the data set. So all these stuffs we can do it by using the functions and the attributes which are defined inside the Pandas library. Fine. So let us see what are all the different data structures first, which are defined inside the Pandas library, and afterwards we shall see different methods. Okay, and afterwards we shall see the attributes. Okay, so what are the different data structures first? Okay, so the different data structures in Pandas are series. Okay, and then data frame and panel. Okay, so there are three important data structures which are defined inside, which we can use in Pandas. One is series, other one is data frame, and the last one is panel. Okay, so this is nothing but series is nothing but one dimensional data frame is nothing but two dimensional data, and panel is nothing but three dimensional data. Okay, so then how can you perform any operations or any attributes, can you implement any methods on these data set? Okay, so first we shall came to know what is this series and how can you create them, how can you perform simple operations on them. Okay, so first one is series. How can you create the series? So as I said, series is a one dimensional data, and Panda series is like a column in a table. Okay, Panda series is a column, is like a column in a table, and it is a one dimensional data, one dimension data, that means one dimensional array which holds the data of any data type. Okay, it can store, we can store a string data type, we can store a integer data type, we can store a floating point data type, right? So we can store a list of values. Okay, so likewise we can store a single dimension, like one dimensional array, and that will be referred as a pandas series. Okay, so for example, so before getting into that, so we shall check either pandas is installed in your system properly or not. So I'll just execute the statement import pandas. If import pandas doesn't give you any error, that means the pandas library is properly installed in your system. So I'm just executing, so it doesn't return me any error. That means the library has properly installed in your system. So normally, as like similar to NumPy, pandas library will be generally imported as PD. Okay, so and PD dot underscore version underscore answer will give you the version of the pandas. Okay, so let us create a series data. Okay, so I'll just create a variable like x, which is equal to, series means one dimensional data, and one dimensional data can directly be given using a single square bracket. So I'll give it like 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so afterwards I have to make it as a Panda series. For that purpose I need to create it like a series variable, which is equal to pd dot series. Okay, followed by parenthesis, within that specify the value x. Okay, so if I just execute this statement, then Panda series will get created. So before that it is just a list. So just check the data type of x. Okay, so print of, okay, it is a list. So if you check the data type of ser, that is series, so it is a Panda series. Okay, so before it was just a list, but afterwards if it is created using the Panda series function, it becomes a Panda series. And Panda series is a, of course it's a one dimensional array, but what happens here, so if we just print the list, then it is just a, it will be having just a single dimension. Okay, it will be appeared like this. But when it is created as a Panda series, then what are all the methods which are defined for the pandas data structures can be implemented, can be applicable to this data set also. If it is created a list, if it is created as list itself, and for some methods this operation which are defined inside the pandas library cannot be supported. Okay, so for such reason, so we need to create a single dimensional array instead of just directly creating the list, create using the Panda series method. Okay, so of course there is no difference, much difference between these two. Like list ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡೆ ಸಿಂಗಲ್ ಡೈಮೆನ್ಷನ್ ಅರೇನ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬೋದಲ್ಲ, ಮತ್ತು ಸೀರೀಸ್ ಮೆಥಡ್ ಏನಕ್ಕೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ಸ್, ಸಮ್ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ಸ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಸಮ್ ಆಟ್ರಿಬ್ಯೂಟ್ಸ್ ವಿಲ್ ನಾಟ್ ಸಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಅದರ್ ಡಾಟಾ ಟೈಪ್ಸ್. Okay, so for such cases we have to create the series data type using Panda series method itself. Okay, so we have how can you create the simple Panda series from a list? So here is the example. So just create a list and call the function Panda series. For this series function, just pass the list as a parameter. Okay, created list as a parameter. So this will create you the list, pandas series. Okay, if you check the data type of this series variable and the x variable, so that data type will also get changed. Okay, so this is how we can create the pandas series. Okay, so one thing you need to remember here is, so as I said, only single dimension will get created if you created the series data type. Okay, so it is appeared, though it is appearing like a column, so it is not a column, it is actually a row. Okay, so how can row be accessed? Okay, it's just a single row of values like 1, 2, 3 and 4. So this is how the values are stored. Okay, so in such cases, if you fetch the variable, this is a series variable, so in such cases, so a series of, if you want to access the elements of the series panda series, then you can just use the index numbers. Okay, and a series of 0 will give you 1, series of 1 will give you 2, series of 2 will give you 3, series of 3 will give you 4. Okay, so if this is the case, if the as like it is appearing like column tarane adu store agittu andre, if series of 0 will give you entire column. Okay, but it is not it is not stored like that, so it is stored like this in a horizontal way. Okay, series, so only if you fetch the values series of 0, series of 1, series of 2, series of 3, so the respective values will get retrieved. Okay, so we'll just try it once. So access the elements or access the values in panda series, we can use the index numbers. Okay, so just give 0, so it will return you 1, give 1, 2, it will give you value 0, 1, 2, it will give you value 3, sorry, it will give value 3. So if I give value 3, sorry 3, so it will return us 4. Okay, so this is how panda series elements can be accessed. Okay, okay, so not only this, you can give the namings or the labels for these index values also. Okay, so that is a special feature which is available in pandas data type. Okay, so you can access the elements of the pandas series using the index numbers. So not only this, you can just give the namings. If you don't like to give the index values, you can just give the titles to these or the index labels for these values, and you can access them through the those labels what you are going to give. Okay, so then how can you give the labels? How can you give the labels to these values in the panda series? So for that purpose, okay, so firstly we have seen how to create the panda series, how to access the panda series, and next we shall see labeling in labeling for panda series. Okay, so just give the values like, I'll give it like variable is equal to pd dot series. Okay, so in panda series values are like 12 comma 34 comma 54 comma 32. Okay, so these are the marks. Consider these are all the marks of the student. So I'll just give like index values will be labeled. Okay, like subject 1 marks, subject 2 marks, subject 3 marks, subject 4 marks. Okay, so you just execute this. Afterwards, if you fetch the variable, then so these index values will get changed. Okay, so here it was by default the values assigned is index values like 0, 1, 2, 3, but afterwards you can give the label to these index values to these index positions, and that can be given with the additional attribute, optional attribute called as index. Okay, for this just pass the array of labels. Okay, so that will give you the labeling for the arrays. So this will be just helpful when you are going to fetch the values by the representation of those values. Okay, so in such cases labeling will plays an important role. Okay, so this is how we can create the labels, and you can access the elements through the labels also, like var of subject 1 will give you the value of subject 1. So if you get subject 3 marks, so subject 3 marks is 54, so you will get to return you the value 54. Okay, so you can also access these. Okay, fine. Not only this, you can also, like in short, if you want to create the data set like this, you can just use the dictionary type of data. So you can also create a dictionary as a pandas series variable. Okay, so you can use the series dictionary data structure to create a pandas series. Okay, so in that way also you can create the panda series. Okay, so in such cases these will be given as key, and these values, marks values, will be given as value places. Okay, these will be used as keys and these will be used as values. So we can just create a dictionary by using these as the keys and these as values, and pass that dictionary variable for the series function, and thereby it will going to create the pandas series. Okay, by the labels of this and values of this. Okay, so that is how you can create a pandas series, and you can access the pandas series. Fine. And next, coming to the data frames. Okay, so next coming to data frames. As I said, data frames are usually multi-dimensional tables, like that to two-dimensional values. Okay, so as series is 1 dimension, data frame is 2 dimension, and panel is 3 dimension. So data sets in pandas are usually generally used in a multi-dimension. So the most commonly used data structure in pandas is data frames. Okay, so we are going to use normally two-dimensional data sets for the analysis purpose, or for any to work with any machine learning algorithm. So we generally use the data frame kind of data structure. Okay, so and similar to the data series, we can also create the data frames using the function data frame. So we'll just give you the simple demonstration of it. Okay, I just use x is equal to, we'll create the dictionary. Give the values like subjects, subject to 1, so just use this values. Okay, and then keep marks. Okay. Afterwards, I'll create a data frame of this values, pd dot data frame. Okay, so you can create it by just using ex. Okay, afterwards it's just printed. Observe here. So this is how the marks will get, the data will get created. Okay, two-dimensional, both rows and columns will be present, and column titles will be used as keys, and the values will be used as values for that column. Okay, so by default these initialization will be present. Okay, if you want to change this also, you can change it by using additional attribute called as index method. Okay, so index attribute you can use, and for that give if you want to give any value, so you can give the value, and those values will get replaced in this place, in these index places. Okay, so subjects, so subject 1, subject 2, subject 3, subject 4, and marks 12, 30, 34, 54, and 32. So this is how the data frame can be created, and similar to the series we can access the column values. Okay, we can access the column values using the names of the column, and so the index can just create it. Just a sec. So var of 0, so let's see what happens. Okay, you can't use the index numbers because so that will be used as a key. ನಿಮಗೆ ಪ್ರೀವಿಯಸ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿರ್ತಾರ ಇಂಡೆಕ್ಸ್ ನಂಬರ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಆ್ಯಕ್ಸೆಸ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ, ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಪ್ರೀವಿಯಸಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗಿತ್ತು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಇಂಡೆಕ್ಸ್ ನಂಬರ್ ಡಿಫಾಲ್ಟಾಗಿ ಇಂಡೆಕ್ಸ್ ನಂಬರ್ಸ್ ಇರ್ತಿತ್ತು. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಲೇಬ್ಲಿಂಗ್ ಕೊಟ್ವಿ. ಸೊ ಆಮೇಲಿಂದ ನೀವು ಯಾವ್ದಾದ್ರು ಕಾಲಮ್ ಯಾವ್ದಾದ್ರು ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂನ ನೀವು ಫೆಚ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಇದೇ ಲೇಬ್ಲಿಂಗ್ ಏನಿದೆ ಅದನ್ನು ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡು ಫೆಚ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದಿತ್ತು. ಬಟ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಂತಂದರೆ ಇಂಡೆಕ್ಸ್ ನಂಬರ್ಸ್ ಫೆಚ್ ಕೊಡೋ ಇರೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಇಂಡೆಕ್ಸ್ ನಂಬರ್ಸ್ನ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ಆ ನೇಮಿಂದ ಯಾವ್ದಾದ್ರು ಕಾಲಮ್ ಇದೆನಾ ಅಂತ ಸರ್ಚ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಕಾಲಮ್ ಯಾವುದೂ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಸೊ ಇಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಗಿವ್ ಯು ದ ಕೀ ಎರರ್ ಇದೆ ಅಂದರೆ ಅದು 0 ನೇಮ್ಡ್ ಕಾಲಮ್ ಯಾವುದೂ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ. ಸೊ ನಾನೀಗ ಕಾಲಮ್ ಯಾವ್ದಾದ್ರು ಕಾಲಮ್ ಪರ್ಟಿಕ್ಯುಲರ್ ಕಾಲಮ್ನ ಫೆಚ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಗಿವ್ ದ ಟೈಟಲ್ ಕ್ಯಾಪ್ಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ದಟ್ ಕಾಲಮ್. Okay, so that will give you the values which is present in that particular column. Okay, fine. So if you want to fetch a particular row, so you can use the excuse me. So you can access you can do slicing. Okay, so or you can, if you want to use the index values itself, then there are some specific functions, there are some specific methods which will be present, and you can use those to access a specific row, or if you want to really use the index numbers to access the values, then there is a special attribute, so you can use that. Okay, so I'll tell you, don't worry. So what is that way, what's the way to fetch the values using index numbers? So I'll tell you. Okay, so like if for this stage, if you want to access any particular columns, then you can just use the column names. Okay, that is marks column will return you the marks column values, and subject columns will give you the subject column values. Okay, so this is how we can create series, and you can create the pandas data frame, and you can access the values of the series or the data frame using names or the index values. Okay, so next we shall see what are all the different like this is how we are going to create the data set, and we are going to use them, we are going to fetch them. But normally what happens, we are not usually create the data sets, but normally we are going to use the created data sets. Like I'll show you the example. Okay, so this is how some data sets will be present. Okay, like columns will be present, rows will be present, and column name with the values. So all those stuffs will be present, and we are going to use these kind of stuffs. Okay, so which is already created. Okay, which is already created. So normally we are going to use already created data sets for solving any machine learning problem. Okay, so or for finding out the any solution. Okay. Fine. And what are all the different like this is how the different data structures can be created and it can be used. Okay, so and what are all the different file types we can access if in case, as I said, the data sets are already pre-created, previously it was created, and we are going to use those data sets for the analysis purpose or to find out the solution. Okay, so in such cases, what are the different file formats that we can use, we can fetch, we can process using the pandas library. So for that purpose, just know the list of file formats for pandas. Okay, so we can access excel sheets. Okay, so we can read csv files in the sense comma separated value files. Okay, and we can access json files, and we can access dot names files. Okay, so we can have h5 files. Okay, we can have xml files. So we can read any of the file formats. Okay, now except the docs kind of files. Okay, and the majorly used file formats are excel sheets, like spreadsheets, json files, h5 files, and CSV files. So these are all the different varieties of file formats that we can access, we can use, we can analyze, and we can work on using pandas library. Okay, and excel sheets normally will be present like this, like in the excel, microsoft excel, you are going to create the data set, and or you are going to store your data set with the .xls extension. Okay, so normally, so the excel sheets will be in the form of xlx or .xlsx extension, and csv files with .csv extension, and json files with .json extension. Okay, so names, h5 files with .h5 extension. Okay, and data names or data named extension files will be present. So these are the different varieties of file formats that we can access, we can process, and we can analyze, and we can find the solution using pandas library. Okay, so different file formats that we can use in pandas are these. So these are all just a majorly used file formats. Apart from this, there are many of the file formats will be present, so which will be generally used to analyze the data and to find the solution. Okay, so just take a note of this point, so we can access the excel sheets, and we can access the csv files, json files, h5 files, names files, xml files. Okay, accordingly there will be a unique functions will be present to read different file formats. Okay, to read excel sheets, there is a there will be a different file function or the method. So to read a csv file, there is a different method. To read names file, there is a different method. To read h5 file, so there is a different method. Okay, so there are different methods to read or to process different file formats. Okay, so just take a note of this. So these are all the different file formats that we can use. Okay, so at the beginning stage, let me just read a simple file. Okay, so how can you write different read so different files? Okay, first is import library, import pandas as pd. Okay, so next create a variable or the data object called as, I'm going to use it as a data set. Okay, so data set is equal to, or I just use it like data frame is equal to pd dot read underscore. So if I am reading Excel sheet, then use the method called Excel. Okay, so if I am reading a CSV file, then use like CSV. If I am reading JSON file, then use the method JSON. So likewise it will going to change like based on what which file you are going to read. So based on that thing, so you are going to specify the method. Okay, read underscore file format. Okay, so now currently I am going to read CSV file. Okay, so as my data set will be in a CSV format, so I'll just use salary data file. Okay, just here you need to specify the file name with extension. Okay, if it is present in the current directory, then just specify the file name with extension. So otherwise if it is not present in the current directory, then go for giving the entire path. Okay, so the entire path in the sense from beginning to the drive. So C drive, the user file, desktop, internship folder. So within that, if you have specified your data sets, and within that you have salary data.csv, then just copy the entire path and place it here. Okay, path of the file you have to copy and place it here, and it will be read. Okay, so afterward just execute the statement. Just a sec. See here, I'll just copy the file and put it in the folder, so what I am currently using here. Okay, okay, so if I execute this, I'll get no error. Okay, so afterwards whatever the data is present in the data frame object, so just print that. So data whatever is present, so that is read here. Okay. Just a sec. Excuse me, just a sec. Okay, so just read the data, and whatever the data is present in that object, data frame object, df object, just try to print that. Okay, so if you just print it, so what is the data which is stored in the output, so that will get printed here. Okay, so in total we'll be having 26 samples, 26 rows here can be considered as samples, and columns will be considered as features. Okay, total 3 columns and 27 rows will be present. Okay, so this is how we can read the data set. Okay, just take a note and execute the same in your systems. next we shall see some attributes to explore this data set. Okay, so normally Pandas library will be used for the purpose of exploratory data analysis. That means explore the information about the data set and to analyze the data set. So we generally use the Pandas library, because what are all the functions on the attributes which are defined inside the Pandas library will normally will give lots and lots of information about the data set. Okay, so using that set of functions and the attributes only, we can get more information about, and more we can easily analyze the data set, columns and the samples. Okay, so for that purpose there will be a support of any some set of attributes and some set of functions. Okay, so out of that, the first method is data frame dot head. So head is a function which is used to retrieve the top rows. Okay, so head is a method which is used to retrieve the top rows. So similarly, tail. Okay, so tail is a method which is used to retrieve bottom rows. Okay, so by default these two methods will return. By default these two methods will return 5 rows. Okay, head method will return top 5 rows, and tail method will return bottom 5 rows. Okay, observe here, head method will return you top 5 rows, and tail method will return bottom 5 rows. If you want to fetch more than 5 or less than 5, you can just give the number here. Okay, so that many numbers will be retrieved. So I want to retrieve 13, so those 13 will get retrieved from top. If I want to fetch only 2, bottom 2, so last 2 will be retrieved. Okay, if you want to fetch bottom 8, so bottom 8 rows will be retrieved. Okay, so this is how you can retrieve, you can fetch top rows and the bottom rows. Okay, so using head and tail method. So head method will give you the top rows, and the tail method will give you the bottom rows. Okay, just make a note of this and execute the same in your systems. Okay, next is coming to the next function, next method. So that is called as describe. So describe is a method which is going to give the statistical information of the numeric valued columns. Okay, statistical information about the numeric valued columns. So those details will be retrieved by the method called describe. So, and the usage will be like data frame dot describe. Okay, so we'll give you the statistical information. That means what is the count, what is the average of the years experience column, age column, salary column, what is the standard deviation, what is the minimum value, which is the maximum value, what is the 25th percentile, what is the 50th percentile, what is the 75th percentile value of the respective columns. Those will get retrieved. Okay, so if we have in your data set, if we have any columns with which is filled with the categorical data, that means the string like values like name, ID or address. So like such columns will be, if it is present in your data set, and those columns will not be considered for calculating the statistical information by the describe method. So the describe method will only returns the numerical valued columns statistical information. Okay, so these details will be retrieved by the method describe. Okay, since in our data set all the columns is of a numerical value, so all the column statistical information will be retrieved. Okay, to retrieve, to get the statistical information about the statistical details of the data set, so then you can just use the method called describe. Okay, so then there is another method called as the info. Okay, so describe is the method which will give you the statistical information. So and the info is a method which will give you the what, as the name itself suggests, it will give you the information about the data set. So information, what kind of information? So what are all the columns which are present in the data set, and how many rows are present, how many columns are present, what is the data type of the specific column. So all those stuffs will be retrieved by the data set, data frame info method. Okay, just like this. So if you retrieve this, then how many rows are present, how many columns are present, so what are the columns, how many samples which are present in each column, and what is the data type of each column. So those stuffs will be retrieved by the info method. Okay, so totally how many memory usage is happened by this data set, and what are all the possible list of data types are present in the data set. So all those stuffs will be retrieved by the method info. Okay, so we have seen the methods head, tail, describe and info. Okay, so head method will retrieve top rows, tail method will retrieve bottom rows. By default both will retrieve 5 rows, and describe method will give you the statistical information about the data set, numerical valued columns especially. Okay, and info method will give you the information, basic information about the data set. Okay, so by seeing this only we are going to analyze that what should be the next action we should take. Okay, so that means if is there any data is missing in your data set, and is there any string like data, like categorical data is present, if you is there any action to be taken to handle the missing data, to handle the categorical data for encoding purpose. So any machine learning algorithm, what kind of variables, which algorithm we have to choose. So all the stuffs will be decided based on the analysis only. So and that analysis can be done by using the Pandas library. Okay. Okay. So next is coming to the attributes. So df dot shape will give you the shape of the data set. So df dot size will give you the size of the data set, totally how many values are present. Okay, and df dot d type will give you the data types, and df dot columns will give you the columns list. Okay, so the shape will give you the shape of the data set, that means how many rows and how many columns are present. df dot size will give you the size of the data set. Okay, and df dot d types will give you the list of data types present in the data set, and df dot columns will retrieve the column array of list of columns. Okay, list of columns will get retrieved, and df dot index will give you the range of index values. Okay, so it starts from 0, so stops at 27, and one step value is 1. So these things we can get it from the different attributes. Okay, so different attributes we can use to retrieve the information. Okay, so and one more special attribute is called as transpose. So this will do the things like transpose of matrix. Okay, so it will convert rows into columns and columns into rows. So previously it was just okay. So rows contains the values and rows contains the sample values, and columns contains the years of experience, age and salary. Okay, so here if we get transpose, then these columns will be converted to rows and values will be made as a columns. Okay, so that can be done by using the transpose of matrix attribute dot caps t. Okay, if you use this, then you will get the transpose of matrix. Fine, just take a note of these stuffs. Df dot shape, size, d types, columns. Okay, just execute them once in your systems. Next, transpose of matrix df dot d. Next is accessing the elements of the or the values or the column values in the data set using the index values. Okay, or the names of the columns. Okay, so and that can be done by using a way called as a location, giving out the location. So that is done by using the function attribute called as lock and ilock. Okay, so using these two things we can access a specific values or specific column values or specific row values from the data set. Okay, if you want to select use through the position, then just use ilock. So ilock, I'll give you like position of 2. Okay, so this will get returned. So if it is 0, so this will get returned. Okay, these are all the values. Okay, so if you want to access through the index values, then just use attribute called ilock. So ilock in the sense index location. So index location, if you want to access a particular rows, then use the index location attribute, and if you want to access a particular column, then directly use like df of, okay, df of, here it is a column name. Okay, so column name, and if you want to access a particular value in a particular column, then just use the column name first, and afterwards followed by the ilog attribute. Okay, so like if I want to access age columns first value, 0th value, so then just print it, so this will get returned. Okay, then if I want to access salary columns third value, okay, so just use salary columns third means 2 index. Okay, so this will get returned 2 index salary columns. So this is how I can access specific values from the data set. Fine. And you can also access the range of values. Okay, so you can access all the rows or all the columns, or specific rows or specific columns, so that I can give it using the slicing method. Okay, so like firstly I can give all the rows up to 2, so up to 5. Okay, so only 5 samples will get retrieved. Okay, so I'll give it like from 4 to 8. Okay, so 4 to 8 means 4, 5, 6, 7. Start index will get included, end index will get excluded. So these many samples will be taken. Okay, so this is how I can do some slicing type of thing with respect to the data frame. And I can fetch, I can explore the data set using info methods, describe methods, column method. Okay, so apart from this, there are a lot many methods which are defined inside the library, called as the sort function, sum function, mean function, and yes, but there are functions like mean, mode, average, is null, drop na, fill na. So like such many varieties of functions are present, are defined inside the pandas library. Okay, and we are going to use them for the analysis of the data set, and for finding out the solution, to train the algorithm, to build any machine learning algorithm. So for such purposes, we are going to use the list of methods, various methods which are defined inside the pandas library. Okay, and these libraries will be used, these functions or the attributes will be used for the purpose of analysis, the analysis of the data set, like how the values are distributed, and what might be the data type, what might be the like count of values in each and every column. So all those stuffs can be visualized, and all those stuffs can be returned by the methods which are defined inside the pandas library. Okay, okay, so then afterwards, if you want to check is there any missing values in your data set, so we can just use the method called df.isNull. Okay, so this will give you a false result. So, and if you want to get total sum of the values which are like, is there any missing values in your entire data set, so it will give you the sum of the missing values. Okay, so if there is no sum, there is no missing values in your data set, then it will give you result. Then if you have any missing values in your data set, so I'll just delete one value and I'll get I'll read it again. Okay, so observe here, 3 years of experience, 1 empty value. Here it is, I have deleted one value. So if I deleted one value, then it will give you the null value, one null value is present. Okay, so what happens in machine learning while solving problems using machine learning algorithms, we used to take care of our data set that it has to be present in the form that is required by the machine learning algorithms. Okay, so for any machine learning algorithms, the data set should be should be very clean in the sense the data set should not contain any missing values, and the data set should be of numerical values. No, it should not contain any categorical value. All the columns values will be replaced by the like numerical values. From the categorical value to numerical data conversion will be happen generally. Okay, and is there any missing values? So we are going to check it out first, and afterwards we are going to fill it by using the different strategies or the different techniques. Okay, so we used to do it in using the pandas library. Okay, so and while those stuffs will be discussed under the concept of advanced pandas. Okay, so these are all the basic stuffs that we are going to use to work with the data set. So to access the attributes of the data set, to fetch the details of the data set, you are going to use the methods called describe method, info method, so is null method, head, tail. Okay, and if you want to access that properties of the data set, then you are going to use the different attributes like shape, size, columns, names, like all those stuffs you are going to use to fetch the properties of the data set. Okay, and to analyze with any of the machine learning algorithms, then you are going to use the pandas library, that is specially this part of work. Okay, so you are going to do the analysis using the different methods like as I said, and you are going to fetch out whether is there any missing values are present, is there any categorical data is present. So all the stuffs will be identified in the pandas functions. Okay, so until now we have just seen the basic things whatever we can do with the pandas library and with the respect to the data frame. So next just briefly explain what is the advanced thing that you can do with the pandas library. Okay, so by using pandas library you're going to do some data cleaning steps. Okay, so this is the important step which has to be taken in the machine learning processing steps. Okay, so this is the third important step that is comes under the part of data pre-processing. So data pre-processing in the sense we are going to prepare the data set for the machine learning algorithms before feeding it to the any machine learning algorithm. Okay, so in that case we are going to clean our data set in the sense we are going to check whether is there any missing data present in our data set, or is there any categorical value which is present in our data set or not. So all those stuffs we are going to see it, and we are going to clear it first. Okay, so data cleaning will be the first thing you are going to see here is we are going to check for missing values, and afterwards we are going to check for categorical values. Okay, so missing values in the sense, is there any missing cells, missing columns or row samples in the data set? Is there any empty values, empty columns or the empty cells are present in the data set? So we are going to check it first. So if it is present, so we are going to solve it by using different techniques. Okay, that means we are going to remove that missing values by using different techniques. So what are all those? So missing values can be handled in majorly 3 different ways. Okay, so one is removing the samples which contain missing values or empty cells. Okay, so empty values or non-values, not a number. Okay, not a number values. If it is present, then we are going to remove those samples if it is of very much less quantity. Like for example, if I have data set with 10,000 samples, 10,000 rows. So out of 10,000 rows, only 5 rows have missing values. So in such cases, instead of filling them, instead of finding out the strategies to fill them, so it is better to remove them, because the 5 out of 15,000 10,000 samples, only 5 rows doesn't affect much for the accuracy. So in such cases we can just remove them, and we can go for continuing with the machine learning algorithms. Okay, so that thing we can do it, removing entire sample, entire row which contains the missing values. Okay, is like ಯಾವುದಾದ್ರೂ ಸೆಲ್ಲಲ್ಲಿ ಅಥವಾ ಯಾವುದಾದ್ರೂ ಕಾಲಮ್ ರೋ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂನಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವುದಾದ್ರೂ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಮಿಸ್ ಆಗಿತ್ತು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, ಲೈಕ್ ಈ ಥರ ಏನಾದರೂ ಎಂಟಿ ಸೆಲ್ಸ್ ಇತ್ತು, ಈ ಥರ ಎಲ್ಲಾದರೂ ಒಂದು ಎಂಟಿ ಸೆಲ್ಸ್ ಇತ್ತು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಅದು ಎಂಟೈರ್ ರೋನೇ, ಓಕೆ, ಎಂಟೈರ್ ರೋನ ನಾವು ಡಿಲೀಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಡ್ಬೋದು. ಸೊ ಅಂದರೆ ಎರೇಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ದ್ಯಾಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಒನ್ ಟೆಕ್ನಿಕ್. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ and that this option will be chosen when the data set is more and the samples which contains the missing values is very less, okay, in a very negligible amount. So in such cases we are going to go for this option. So we are going to remove the samples which contains the missing data. And the second thing is we are going to manually fill it. Manually fill it in the sense we are going to search for where the empty cell is present. We'll open the file and we'll sit and we'll going to type the values. Okay, so and that is the second strategy, and that is quite time killing job. Okay, and the third strategy is what, using the different strategies. Okay, so using the different strategies is what are third and important technique that we are going to use to fill the missing values. For example, if I have the larger data set and out of that the missing values is also many, missing values samples is also many. For example, if I have 10,000 samples, out of 10,000 5,000 samples, 5,000 rows will have the missing values. Okay, either one column value might be absent or multiple column values might be absent. So if it is either at least one column value is absent, then it is also taken for count. So if the missing values samples is also more in a considerable amount, then we have to go for this option. So we are going to use any of the strategy. Okay, so manually fill ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂತ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಕ್ಕೆ ತುಂಬ ಟೈಮ್ ಕಿಲ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ, ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಟಜೀಸ್ನ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. Okay, so what are all those strategies? So the strategies are finding out mean or mode or median of the column, and we are going to fill the mean or mode or median value of the column in the missing places. Okay, mean, that means average. Mode in the sense most repeatedly occurred value. Median in sense middle value. So any of these strategies will be used to fill the missing places. Okay, so using these strategies we are going to fill the missing values. Okay, and that is also happened by using the method which is defined inside the Pandas library. Okay, and the special library which is used for this purpose is fill method. Okay, so we are going to discuss in detail about this stuff in the next classes, because when we started about discussing about machine learning algorithms, and then we are going to discuss in detail about these stuffs. Okay, so just for now just remember this thing. Fillna is a method which is used to fill the empty cells using any of these strategies. Okay, and to remove the samples from the data set, method used is dropna. Okay, so dropna is a method which is used to drop or delete the entire samples which contains the empty cells. Okay, so this is how we are going to handle the missing values. And in categorical values, so categorical values also can be converted to a numerical values by using the method called get dummies. Okay, so using this method, so we are going to convert the categorical data, that means string or a word like data, if it is present in your data set, so that will be converted to a numerical data, because any machine learning algorithm will require the data set to be in the form of completely filled with the numbers. Not a single value should be present in a alphabet, or it should not contain any special symbols. It should be present with the numerical values. Okay, so that's why we need to convert is the if any string type of value or what type of value is present in your data set. So we need to convert it to a category numerical data, and that process is called as encoding. Okay, and that encoding can be done using pandas also. So, and the method which is supports for this purpose is, for this technique, is get dummies. Okay, so these are all the different methods we are going to use for the process of data cleaning. Okay, and apart from these there are plenty of methods which will be used as the time being comes, like merge, join. We are going to combine the multiple rows, we are going to combine multiple columns, we are going to split the columns, we are going to split the rows. So all those stuffs we can do it by using the pandas library, but majorly used whatever the stuffs. So those things I have explained you now. Okay, so whatever we have discussed today, so these are we have discussed about the basics of pandas. So what are the what is pandas, and what are the basic data structures which are available in pandas. Okay, series, data frame, and panel. So import pandas. So we are going to check for whether that pandas library has properly installed in your system or not, and we have used the check the version, and after that we have created the series data done. We are going to access, we are going to just access the properties, and how again the values are stored, and how it can be changed. Okay, and afterwards we have created the data frame. Okay, so and afterwards we have seen the file formats. Okay, so and how can we read the data set, and how can we explore it. Okay, so what are the different functions which are defined inside the pandas library: head, tail, describe method, and info, shape attribute, size attribute, d types attribute, columns attribute, and index attribute. Okay, so these stuffs we are under transpose of data frame. Okay, and these stuffs we have discussed now, and I love to access the data frames, specific rows based on the index value. You can use the attribute called .iloc. Okay, so just remember this. This is very important, that df.iloc, df.head, df.tail, and read underscore csv methods, and get like data cleaning methods are very much important, because these are all the stuffs which plays an important role, and we are going to use them at a higher rate in future. Okay, so just keep practicing all these stuffs. Okay. Fine. So pandas library, for to practice the pandas library functions, I have just posted the data sets here. You can just use any of these data sets to just for the basic purpose of reading and displaying, and to know the basic properties of the data set. So to just practice them using these data sets. Okay, so and as I said, every library will be having an official website. So similarly, pandas is also having the official library called as pandas.org. Okay, so this is what this is, it's not, just a sec. Okay, pandaspydata.org. Okay, so this is the pandas official website. So here you can find out any of the released or newly released version of pandas. All those stuffs you can obtain it here, and related documents will also be present here. Okay, you can take a support of these stuffs and practice more. Fine. So if you have any doubts until this concept, so you can just ask me now. Okay, so if you have any doubts, you can ask me. So that's all for today's session. So in today's session, we have discussed about the Pandas library, and we have seen the important functions and important attributes of the Pandas library. Fine. So and these are all the important things that we are going to use in solving the machine learning problems. Okay, so just practice them by using these using the data sets. Okay, so in the next session we are going to discuss about the matplotlib library. Okay, so and that is the library which is specifically used for plotting the graphs, and for that plotting, so we are going to use the same data sets, and we are going to use the values, similar way values. Okay, just practice them. Okay, fine. So that's all for today's session. So if you have any doubts regarding any of the concept which is discussed till
Ma'am,
now, Heli,
for me, when I use index method, it was showing error, ma'am.
what how you are going to use it?
Wait, ma'am, I will show means
Okay,
present my screen.
okay, sure, sure. Just stop it. No, columns is just an attribute, not a function. You have to use it like df dot columns, columns ಅಷ್ಟೇ, ಬ್ರ್ಯಾಕೆಟ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ಕೊಡಬಾರ್ದು, ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಎಕ್ಸಿಕ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, what about index?
You have to use it like attribute only, not like ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಅಂತ ಕೊಡಬಾರ್ದು. ಅದನ್ನು ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಅಂತ ಕೊಡೋದಾದರೆ ನೀವು ಬ್ರ್ಯಾಕೆಟ್ಸ್ ಓಪನ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಕ್ಲೋಸ್ ಅಂತ ಕೊಡ್ತೀರಾ, ಬಟ್ ಆಟ್ರಿಬ್ಯೂಟ್ ಅಂತ ಕೊಡೋದಾದರೆ ಯು ಆರ್ ನಾಟ್ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಯೂಸ್ ದೆಮ್ ಅಲಾಂಗ್ ವಿತ್ ದ ಬ್ರ್ಯಾಕೆಟ್ಸ್. ಓಕೆ, ಅದೇ ಆಟ್ರಿಬ್ಯೂಟ್ಸ್ಗೂ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ಗೂ ಡಿಫ್ರೆನ್ಸ್, ಮೇನ್ ಡಿಫ್ರೆನ್ಸ್ ಅದೇ. ಓಕೆ, ನೀವು ಬ್ರ್ಯಾಕೆಟ್ಸ್ ಕೊಡದೇ ಇದ್ದರೆ ಅದು ಆಟ್ರಿಬ್ಯೂಟ್ಸ್, ಕೊಟ್ಟರೆ ಅದು ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್. ಓಕೆ,
Okay, ma'am.
ಇಂಡೆಕ್ಸ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಕಾಲಮ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ದ ಆಟ್ರಿಬ್ಯೂಟ್ಸ್, ನಾಟ್ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ಸ್. ಓಕೆ, ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ನೀವು ಅವಾಗ ಅದು ಓಪನ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಕ್ಲೋಸ್ ಪ್ಯಾರಂಥಸಿಸ್ ಕೊಡಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ. ಓಕೆ, ಅವಾಗ ಪ್ಯಾರಾಮೀಟರ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ, ಪ್ಯಾರಾಮೀಟರ್ ಯಾವುದಾದ್ರೆ ಅದು ಲಿಸ್ಟ್ ಕೊಡಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ದಟ್ಸ್ ಇಟ್. ಫೈನ್. ಸೊ ಎನಿಬಡಿ ಎಲ್ಸ್? Fine. So that's it for today's session. So we shall continue our discussion about the next library in the next session. Fine. So thank you.